Hi, I'm Diana Schmidt-McCall, and I work for the town of Black Mountain, managing the Dr. John Wilson Community Garden. I've also served our community for over 15 years as a culinary educator, and Dr. Kevin Greenspan invited me to share what I know with you. What I want to talk with you about is if you are on a gluten-free diet or you're wanting to reduce your reliance on wheat, are some great alternatives to wheat products or gluten products. What I have right here are garbanzo beans and garbanzo bean flour. Sometimes garbanzo bean flour is known as besan. You can buy this from Bob's Red Mill at Ingalls, or you can also go to Foreign Affairs on Tunnel Road and get big bags of besan flour. Why is this great to know about? Because you can make this incredibly delicious fast food, street food from France. Basically what you do is you take equal parts warm water and besan flour or garbanzo bean flour, whisk them together with a nice heavy glug of olive oil, 1 or 2 tablespoons, some coarse ground salt, a little bit of cracked pepper, and whatever fresh or dried herbs of your choice. I really love to use rosemary. You can even add in some chopped garlic and some hot peppers, some dried chili peppers. You're gonna make a nice batter out of that, and you're gonna preheat your oven to around 450 degrees and put one of your grills at the very bottom. When your oven is hot, again, ideally you'd have a cast iron skillet or maybe an 8x8 ceramic dish, something pretty heavy, and you'll preheat that with the oven. When it's hot, you'll pull it out, dress it with olive oil, and pour your batter into it, and it's gonna sizzle. Bake that for about 10 to 15 minutes until the crust is beautifully cracked and dry and golden. And if you want to finish it off under the broiler to really get that street food France feel, you would also finish it under your broiler with a little bit of extra olive oil and coarse sea salt. This dish is not only really delicious, it makes a great accompaniment to soup in the winter, or you can make a really great pizza with it. So once you've got that finished cooked crust, then dress it with your favorite toppings like tomato sauce or olive oil and garlic, fresh spinach, mozzarella. Bake it for a few more minutes again to heat the sauce and toppings, and there you go. Our next one is quinoa, spelled Q-U-I-N-O-A and pronounced quinoa. It's an ancient grain from South America, and what's really great about quinoa is that it's a complete protein. I don't think there's any other grain that can boast that. So it's a really wonderful one to add to your diet. And you can cook it very much like you would cook rice. So same ratio, same proportions. Say you would cook a cup of quinoa with a cup and a half of water, or if you want it more porridge-like because you want to have it for breakfast, you might add 2 cups of water. Bring it to a boil, put the lid on, turn it down to simmer, and then time it for about 20 to 25 minutes. At that point, you take it off the heat, let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then fluff it with a fork and you're ready to go. In an ideal world, you're going to get the best flavor from quinoa if you soak it for about 7 hours in warm water before you cook it, and then drain that water off. Sometimes people will find that quinoa has a bitter flavor, and that comes from not soaking. So that's a choice you can make. You can find your source of quinoa, which again, you can get from Ingalls or at any of our natural food stores here in Black Mountain, like Roots and Fruits or Black Mountain Natural Food Store, and try it both ways. You also will increase your nutritional absorption when you soak your grains ahead of time. So if you soak it for 7 hours, drain that water off, and then go through the process I just described. Next, we have buckwheat, which has become really popular because of the Kashi cereal brand. And that's what they're using in all of their granola bars and their cereal products is buckwheat. And buckwheat is a grain from Eastern Europe. This one is toasted in that you can tell from the dark brown look. And what I love to do with buckwheat is cook it in chicken stock. It's delicious. First of all, saute some onions and butter. Then add your buckwheat, these are called groats, and saute them until they're nice and toasty and fragrant, and then pour in chicken stock, put the lid on, and cook. So your ratios there, again, you're looking at around maybe 1 cup of buckwheat to 1.5 to 2 cups of chicken stock, depending on how soft or tender. If you want more of a porridge consistency, use more stock. If you want it a little more dry and fluffy, use less. You can also, another great thing to do with this is a breakfast dish. It'll take a little bit longer, or you can also use this for dinner, is you toast the buckwheat groats and you add in a scrambled egg, and you just keep stirring and stirring and stirring until the egg cooks and coats the buckwheat. And then again, you cook it in chicken stock, and it just adds an additional flavor to the buckwheat that's delicious. One final thing you can do with buckwheat, among other things, is that you can make a porridge that you bake in your oven. So you take potatoes, onions, the buckwheat, stock, and cook it in your oven, and it makes a gorgeous winter casserole. And you can put some fresh parsley or other herbs in there as well. Another wonderful grain, this one definitely more a breakfast, is steel-cut oats. And then we also have rolled oats. Both of these come from the oat groat, which is a grain, just like wheat, comes from a grass. This one has been coarsely cut, and this one, those oat groats have been rolled until they're flattened. You want to make sure when you're buying any kind of grain that it's in a sealed plastic bag, especially when they've been cut or rolled like this, because they can go rancid. The natural oils in the grain that preserve them, once they're exposed to air, can start to go bad and can go rancid. So make sure that you're buying from a company that sells their product in sealed plastic bags so that you know that it's being preserved well. Oats are best made and taste the most delicious if you soak them overnight. What I like to do is, before I go to bed at night, take my cup of oats, or 2 cups, depending on how many people I'm feeding. About 1 cup will feed 2 to 3 people. I put twice as much liquid with the oats, and then I take sometimes like a tablespoon of yogurt. And what that does is the acid in the yogurt helps to break down the phytic acid that's in the grain that keeps it from being digestible. Our bodies don't make phytic acid, so when we add just a little bit of an acid ingredient like yogurt, or you could use lemon juice or even a cider vinegar, just like 1 tablespoon for every cup of oats, that helps to break down that phytic acid. And then the next morning, all you have to do is heat your porridge up on the stove. It'll be ready in like 5 minutes. So it would normally, with whole rolled oats or even steel-cut oats, take 25 minutes to cook, sometimes an hour to cook. You've shortened your cooking time because basically the acid is pre-digesting, pre-cooking your grain overnight while you're sleeping. So the next morning, put the pot as is on the stove, maybe add a little more milk or a little more water if you want it to be a little thinner, a little soupier, a little softer, and then heat it up. Let it cook for no more than 10 minutes, and you're ready to go. Thank you. I hope you enjoy trying out some new grains.